13.
You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Why, hello, and welcome to Season 22, Episode 7 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
Mac?
And I'm Tappy.
I'm back. I'm still sick,
Hooray!
but I'm
Ooh.
back. I doubt it's contagious,
Yeah, you sound very sure of it.
We're still ill.
and I would like to share my misery anyway. In this episode,
Happy Friday the 13th.
Yes.
In this episode, we were going to discuss props in some manner. Jeb sends us a note about Fear the Con, a new book, and an observation, which I listened to the episode, and even though I put it in the blurb, I did not actually put the email in. Sorry, Jeb, we'll have it this time.
Yeah.
Drill88 sends us a real horror story. And I don't remember why I phrased it that way. And Eric from Indiana sends us a tale of disappointment and triumph. But first, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. We like emails. We need emails. Without emails, we don't know what to talk about.
And then it's just us making fun of each other.
Crazy,
Exactly.
crazy
I
madness.
don't see the problem.
No, it's a problem.
Oh,
And we're also on social media. Happy Jacks RPG, all one word. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And if you find one that we're not on, go ahead and make the account for us.
No,
Post dick
don't
pics.
ignore them.
Don't speak.
I don't know. I'm in favor of Stu's chaotic plan.
No.
And then we have to track you down.
Yeah, we have to kill you all. I mean,
Again, I'm in favor of Stu's chaotic plan because I figure I get to do the killing.
that's possible, actually.
Wait, is that chaotic neutral?
No.
Me? I'm chaotic evil.
Obviously. Duh.
If you'd like to watch the show live, if you don't want it in your ear holes but want it in your eye holes instead,
Well, both, actually.
both ear holes
Yeah,
and
it's
eye
double
holes.
penetration.
Or you could mute. You could mute.
We can.
Mute. Actually, it'd be quadruple penetration.
Ooh, my.
We can't smell it, that's true.
No, you have
can't
two
feel
eye
it
holes
either.
and you have two ear holes.
Oh,
It's double penetration
yeah.
either way, at least.
Yes,
That's
this is
actually
true.
true.
As long as it's
Yeah.
not double
Yeah.
secret penetration.
Oh my god, double secret penetration.
Why do you guys keep letting me come back?
Oh my god, can we have a shirt that says that?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
We'll sell tens of them.
No. If you're lucky.
Like, point
I know what's so what. You know what that's going to sell like? What other shirt? That
Yeah.
reminds me of. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can go to happyjacks.org/live. We stream the show at 7 p.m. Pacific time every Friday evening. Rain or shine. Or blisteringly hot weather.
which is mostly what we have.
Thank God I have air conditioning. Knock on wood so that it doesn't break. Because that would suck. First email. Oh! No, we're going to talk about props.
Oh, yes.
I want to talk about props and
You
what
do-
makes them...
You do a really good job here.
Ba-dum-bum.
Hell! I want to talk about props that you've either made or received that were very effective or notable or brought you into the game or did something of that sort. And what sort of made the prop stand out in your mind as being boss?
I have a lot of things to talk about, but
Yeah.
I know. Yes.
I feel like we've talked about all my props before, though.
Yeah, but we
It's been a
can't
long time.
coalesce them all together, though,
That's
in
true.
one
That's
place.
And also, between you and me, not everyone goes back and listens to the whole backlog, so they won't know we're repeating.
Oh, that's true.
And I will need to pause every so often
Yeah.
to do that. But I have the cough button. I can, and then I can.
That's really annoying. They don't like when you do that.
Wait, what's worse, the cough button or the cough?
Yes.
No, this cough button's silent. Yours,
Yeah.
your switches make a clicking noise.
I don't have
This one
one.
doesn't make a clicking noise.
Yeah.
Okie dokie then.
Yep.
It's cough drop.
So props.
Props.
Oh my god, cough drop.
Well, there's been an escalating prop war in Carefree High
Yeah.
so far, which is out of control at this point.
I'm winning.
And Tappy started it, and I am losing.
Yeah, I'm currently winning. Do you want to talk about the props that you got? Okay, I guess I have to talk about the props that I made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the first game, the Carefree High, for those of you who are not listening to the AP, and you should listen to it because we only have 5 episodes, so there's not much to catch up on. The characters are all high school kids in the 90s, and so my character...
And also monsters.
And also monsters.
FYI.
Yeah. And also crazy sex monsters. And so Mac's character and my character are best friends. And so one of the ways that I wanted to establish the connection between the two of us is to make her a friendship bracelet.
Now, we have to note, I was GMing that session because I co-GM'd that game with Adam.
Yes.
And so that was the first instance where Adam jumped in to start GMing stuff because I just kind of sat there and was like, what's happening now? Because
Right.
it was just like, there's this actual thing out of nowhere. And I'm like, what? Oh, God, we're doing props.
But it also, I think it really helped in a big way to establish not just that connection, but also just kind of throw a monkey wrench in your plans on what our characters were going to do.
Yeah, well, I think it threw a wrench in your plans, too. Like,
Yeah, a
it
lot
just
of
sort of snowballed from there. And then one of the other games, I brought everybody mood rings
Right.
Nice.
because that's 90s appropriate, and that seemed awfully fun.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then Tabby pretty much killed me, and I am
Right.
actually dead right now.
So my character decided to make her character a love letter with a rose, because my character's name is Rose, with a poem that I memorized in college because I'm a nerd, along with a poem from a werewolf movie because I do research, because her character's a werewolf.
And old-ass clip art.
And some old-ass clip art that I turned into ASCII art.
Nice.
Yes. And a literal, actual rose
Oh yeah,
in the box.
I snuck a literal actual rose into the studio in a box that nobody saw. And I think the reveal is one of the things that's really great, especially if you're a player, but even if you're a GM, and there's a thing, rather than telling anybody about it, that honest response in the middle of the game, I think is really great. And that's one of the best things about having a prop is it's there, it's exciting. It kind of changes a lot of things, and then people can react excitedly towards it because it's neat. It's
I would
cool.
imagine in a game like Monster Hearts, note passing has an entirely different dimension to it, especially character to character, player to player.
But well, we haven't done much actual note passing because we haven't been in class much.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
because
Okay.
it's like high school all of the CW where you wonder if they're ever going to actually go to class.
Right.
Yeah. And they talk about their homework.
Yeah.
I don't really see them do it because that's boring.
It also
Right.
took us 4 episodes to get through one day in the game.
Yeah. turns out we talk about it.
Right.
But it's never boring, and it's
Yeah.
really fun to see that. And then there was another really great prop that Joey brought into the Insert Coin game that he sprung on Sam's character because their characters had gone to space camp.
Yeah.
And so he brought her a little robot keychain at the table, and Sam was not expecting it. And it was just that extra dimension of like, oh my God, there's actually a thing to react to right now,
Yeah.
which I think is fabulous.
Yeah.
I wish I still had my jumpsuit from space camp because it probably would fit Sam.
That's very cool. 100% would. And if it didn't, she'd cut it up and make something fabulous out of it. It would
Yeah,
be
probably.
so good.
But even simple props can be really effective. Like sometimes it's notes. when I was in Misadventures with Celine, she was very big on props and having like printed out sheets of paper and a lot of handwritten stuff, and it just gave a little extra something. And a lot of times it was secret notes, so the other players would know you had something, but they didn't know what yours said.
Yeah.
And that's really fun.
That's very cool.
Oh,
I really
man.
like props that add something, like an element to the game, but are also useful for the players as a GM.
Yeah.
And like I ran a Wild Talents Harry Potter thing that I made one time, and I actually like went through. Okay, actually, my husband went through because he's good in computer stuff, and I found all the spells in Harry Potter for him.
Cheater.
And I told him, 100%. Love you, honey. Like he made little spell books, and we printed them off the right size. Those little cheap plastic photo albums you buy.
Yeah.
So we bought those, and we made it look like so every player got an actual spell book.
Oh, that's so great.
So they're able to, even if they didn't know what spells were in Harry Potter, they're able to look it up and see, okay, this is this, and it kind of does this, and then it was related to different magic pools of dice they had, which is how I kind of tweaked the Wild Talent system, and those were very cool.
That's fucking rad.
Yeah, and then I made wands to go with it because
What?
you can't be Harry Potter without a wand. So that was very cool too. And the players lost their minds.
The very first time that I was on Happy Jacks, there were props involved.
Yeah.
And that was from Oda Sin.
Yes.
And Stu, you had the newspaper.
I did.
I love those.
And that was
I
like
think I
the
did
very first time
2
here.
or 3 or maybe 4
You did a
different
bunch of
ones.
them
It wasn't a
during
lot,
the-
but there was
yeah.
a few different ones.
Yeah.
Whenever something big would happen in the game, I would, like when your building collapsed, I
Yeah.
had one for that.
But that was
Terror.
the first game that Jesse and I were in, and so it was really interesting to sit down as a player and like right off the bat there was something to react to.
Yeah.
Although it kind of weirdly seems like it backfired on you in earlier episodes, but ended up okay where they found this little piece in the newspaper which was supposed to be fluff, and then it became a whole thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the best though.
Yeah.
When something's supposed to be fluff and then it becomes like huge.
I literally had like 2 or 3 column inches to fill
Yeah.
to make it look like a full sheet. And I'm like, I'll put a little story about a bear attacking a bunch of campers.
That was the other game. This one, it was the old lady in the bar.
That was an
bar.
ad. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
an ad at the bottom of the thing for
Yeah.
the bar. It's like, she's too old to own a bar. Something's up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% what it was. It was literally
So
she
good.
became like one of the biggest characters in the game. It was amazing. Like Doily McWhitcherson, man.
It is
Yeah.
awesome what players like will lock onto.
Yeah.
And then you just run with it.
Yeah, and that was a cool situation too, though, because as a new player sitting down, you guys were able to kind of read a little bit about the world and get a little bit of a fluff,
A little bit of flavor.
yeah, flavor that wasn't necessarily like just info dump on you.
Yeah.
The other thing, I, especially early on, I've started more than one game with a newspaper,
Yeah,
or at
because
least like a one-sheet thing.
degree in journalism.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I like to do is if I have like 2 or 3 different plot hooks that I might want to introduce, I'll throw them all in there and see which one the players want to go after.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
that's fucking
It's just
rad.
present them to them. It's like, oh, this piece of art disappeared from the local museum, or this happened, or whatever. They can go investigate whatever it is they want to investigate.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was super fucking rad though to come in with that, and it was fun for me coming in with the character I had as well, because the front page story was unknowingly to the other players about my character,
Right.
because it was the Seaside Slasher Returns, and that was Asa murdering dudes and not cleaning up afterwards.
Yeah,
Right.
Yay!
Yep.
very exciting.
I love Vampire. It's a great game.
It is. It's fun.
Yeah.
The I can't remember. It was something it was edited with a newspaper, and I can't remember what it was. Now I remembered. Erica Odd mentioned Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu's Adventures. They give you, like, in the back of the book, there's props you can construct.
Oh, that's cool.
So there'll be like a matchbook, so you can like photocopy it or cut it out of the book, I guess, if you're hardcore. Cut the thing out and put the staple. Take a matchbook apart, print it onto cardstock, and make your own actual matchbook.
That's cool.
So whatever hotel is in the thing.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah,
really
it's
great.
really cool. There was a. I think it's a Max Sinara Lafayette has all kinds of newspaper clippings that you can find, and there's all kinds of different props and things. Maybe when someone else is talking, I'll run in and get it. 'Cause the back of the book is like 8 or 12 pages of props that you can cut out and build and glue together.
That's super cool.
Talene did a Matchbox in Misadventures as well, and I remember there was a piece of it and I could see through it, and so I started pulling her prop apart, but it was meant to because there was something hidden, and she was waiting to see if anybody noticed it
really?
under the other side of the paper.
Oh man, remember when you're like 10 or 12 years old and you had all the things with like invisible ink? And you put up the incandescent light so it would burn, but we don't have
Or
incandescent
you do like
lights anymore.
the lemon juice trick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be so cool. And then you just have all these props that nobody ever really investigated.
Well, and people in the chat room are bringing up like when you make letters and like the way you can age them and like scent them or things like that. It's really great. I think it's I think it's one of the only times a lot of us ever use cursive anymore.
I went through at least 1,000 fonts to find a cursive that my character would have done because I can't do cursive.
Oh, yeah.
And I can barely write.
Tappy, I teach 4th grade. I can teach you cursive if you want.
No. I know cursive.
Yeah,
you just can't read it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But those are
Yeah,
great
but I mean, there are
little tricks,
millions
too.
of fonts out there that you can do that are neat.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be a complicated prop. For Phoenix Dawn Command, I wanted to have, there's a character called the Puppeteer, and he's basically a mask, and there's a field in one place, it's called the Field of Masks. And so I kind of took the two ideas of like sort of this weird haunted mask person and this field of masks. So I drew these masks that were like 4 different aspects, the things that the players feared most for their characters. And I drew them out and I gave them each like a scrap of paper. I'm like, these masks just suck onto your face, and they had these individualized drawings. I'm like, this is what the effect is on you when you have these masks on your face, and you have to act accordingly.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
Also, Field of Masks, when there's a person who has masks on them, makes me think of like people growing out of the ground with masks on them. It's like this is a field where I grow my masks.
Super creepy and amazing, actually. It's really cool.
The harvest will be soon.
And you're just cutting the masks off of people, and
terrifying
they're like
L5R.
all bleeding from their face and screaming on the ground and flapping around as you harvest the masks off of them.
I'm on board for
Yeah, this is good. So this is for the Care Bears game that I'm going to run.
Absolutely.
It's like a weird reverse Halloween 3 Season of the Witch or something, but they grow the masks organically.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that.
One of the things I've seen...
I want that to be like one of like the normal people too.
Yeah. One of the things I've seen happen more and more lately is people using social media as a prop too.
Yeah.
Like people creating Twitter accounts and stuff for characters. You did that for Mode of Sin one time.
Yeah.
So it's like there was one that you were like dropping hints and stuff. Like one of the I forget.
Vampire Hunter.
That's right.
Yeah.
With a Y and R-E at the end.
Right.
Please tell me there's one that was Vampire Hunter E.
Yeah.
So the next one, Vampire Hunter D, the anime you've never seen. Oh,
Sorry.
Mind. So it's the next one, Vampire Hunter E.
Yeah.
The joke is lost on me.
Just
mic
smile
is
and
not-
nod.
My mic is not on.
Yeah. So yeah, it was the vampire hunter had created, like, was trying to get information and trying to convince people on the island that vampires were real. So he had created this Twitter account and was tweeting out, and we were trying to use it to like track him down and deal with that issue and all that stuff. So
That's cool.
it's super cool, and it's really incredibly easy to do.
Yeah.
So most of us doing that all the time anyway. So
Coercing other players is good too, because Jib came and played one-off with Razor Ridge, and I wanted to have, I needed some plot point stuff. And I said, hey, do you want to write the letter from your character to the rest of the team?
Nice.
Here's kind of what I need in it, otherwise go nuts. So he actually wrote the letter for me, and then I dropped that on the table with the players.
yeah.
There was more than one. It wasn't just Vampire Hunter. There was also an official Twitter account for Caravel Island.
That's right. Yeah.
And Bill was actually making artwork for that and posting to it saying, did you ever see any of his
I did, yeah.
advertisements?
So good.
It was pretty awesome.
I
Yeah.
miss playing that game.
It's like Caravel Island, views you can die for. Or
Yeah.
things like that. It was all puns about death.
It's Bill, of course it was.
Yeah.
So good.
But yeah, that's actually a really good. I mean, Facebook would be kind of tough to do it on because they're pretty insistent that you actually have real people on Facebook. But Twitter, they don't really give a fuck.
Yeah.
So you can make fake accounts all day long on Twitter.
Yeah.
Also, Also, what's the other one I was using?
Genuine Stork.
That's Stork's Zork doesn't have access to his Twitter account. I mean, 8 or 9 other people do, but he doesn't. I told him, I said, do you want it? He says, nah, keep it the way it is. He gets a laugh.
Beautiful. Yes.
Pretty amazing.
I'll give you the username and password.
Oh, yeah. Let me go.
All tweets are all caps.
Yeah, you can't. You have to miscapitalize everything.
And at least one misspelled word per tweet.
Have you ever read any of my tweets?
Okay. And then
like
then
part of the
hashtags go at the end of the tags. Because he doesn't know how to do it. He's old.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I want to go to there.
All right.
It's the best.
Oh my God.
It's
yes.
awesome. And it always gets more active when I add a few people to it.
Yes. Until people get bored.
Right.
Well, I forgot the password, so I haven't been able to do it in a while. But
It's the same password as everything else.
oh, okay. All right, then. I get my phone out right now.
Well, in that case.
In that case.
And I always type really hard when I'm typing.
Yeah.
Because you want it to
And
look
just kind of grumble.
I
Right.
see. I poke at it with like one finger.
Well, yeah.
This is how text is work.
But double click that caps lock.
No.
Oh my God.
Other props that I really love, and Carefree High is also a really great example of this. Actually, I don't know if you made the pictures public, but I love the like groups that find pictures or get pictures or draw pictures
on there.
of the characters.
Yeah.
Because it just helps like visualize. It helps get everybody on the same page. It helps me get into character. I did it for. I mean, it's a little different. I did it for my Salem Witch Trials game originally. Again, Sam actually did it, but I had the idea to. But Sam did like hand-drawn sketches of all the characters, and they were like sitting there, and that's how they picked their characters, is like their hand-drawn sketches. And then for Laser Ponies, I actually made the little ponies with like the little cutie marks and stuff for all of them, with like the targets and like cigars and shit like that, because they were all bad.
It's public for Carefree because I did a couple of drawings, and then there's also we all pick like a photo in there.
Nice, yeah.
And also on Otherworld London with 12-sided stories, Wes had art done of all of our characters
Beautiful.
early on, which was really great too.
Yeah. I'm the worst at like fan casting. I want to go find some like random picture of a person on the internet. I don't want to like find a celebrity who looks like my character. That annoys me.
The reason we did that with Carefree specifically is because it's like
The CW.
the CW shows.
Yeah, it's a 90s Buffy-esque kind of thing. So it's like, oh, who would play this?
Yeah, no, that wasn't a critique on you guys. Like Jason asked us to do that for Revelations too, for Demigods, and I was like, here's my stock footage. Like androgynous, stock photo, picture with like the thing. I'm like, I don't want a celebrity, because then I start feeling like I start impersonating that person, because I just slip into that.
That's one of the reasons why I hate trying to play games in fandoms where you like actually are like, okay, we're gonna play Fireplay and you are playing Captain Mal. It's like, no, I don't want to play that. I want to play my own character.
Right. The when I ran Ghostbusters LA at game cons, I turned the character sheet into a prop.
That's cool.
Because each one was like a police rap sheet.
That's such a good game.
So it had best place to go and look for photographs. Mug shots. Search.
Yes.
And then and there's historic ones too, because who was it? The Smithsonian, or it was FBI, but someone put up 1920s and 1930s mugshots, and there's an entire database of them.
That's amazing.
Of all these people, and it's fantastic. And also in England, they did a bunch of mugshots. Probably around the time they first started making mugshots, which probably wouldn't have been much earlier than the 20s, I would imagine, because it's
cool.
Right. When
expensive to make pictures earlier than that.
Yeah.
But that's a great place to look for photos, especially if it's a game where everyone's playing kind of a up-to-date. Because then they're always going to kind of look. And you always get great expressions, because especially with the drunk mugshots. But and then I basically I used a typewriter font and typed up the character sheets, and the first half of the character sheet was like, here's the things they're suspected of, here's known aliases, blah 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 blah, and then the bottom had all the stats for the character.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a interesting. You turning the character sheet into a kind of a prop is kind of an interesting thing to do.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to be staring at it all night anyway. So if you can make it kind of bring them into what the feel of the game is, especially with that, because they're all playing characters who are like kind of really on the edge of the law in one way or another. At least those characters were.
Yeah, and you can do that sorry.
Go ahead.
You can do that with so many different things. Like you're playing Call of Cthulhu, they're like asylum sheets. Like they're their file from the asylum at the end of the game, or if
Yeah,
you
like
die.
the psychiatrist notes
Whatever
and
it
stuff
is,
like that. Oh,
that'd
yeah.
be like super cool.
Well, yeah, this book, I just looked in it. It's got about 18 pages of props in here. And most of them are like clipped notes, but some of them are like letters and business cards. But there's
it looks like there's a telegram in there too. I
There
did,
is a
I
telegram
did
in
a
there,
telegram for Razor Ridge, and I found a thing online that was a generator.
Yeah.
Where you could say the to and from, and it would generate it like an old Western telegram.
Imagine for the psychiatrist, your character has to talk to the person, to like one person over, talk to them about your character, and then they write the psychiatrist notes about your character.
that would be awesome.
That's amazing.
And then, but also then you really get to like interact with and get to know the characters at the beginning of the game and have this cool thing that you made.
Right.
One thing that Jessica Drew does is she has a game where with her costumer model friends, and they all dress up as their characters.
Right.
That's another thing you can do, is like, especially if your character looks like you.
Right.
But even if it doesn't, you can just dress up as your character, and everybody comes in and kind of gets you like into the mood, or just having fun being ridiculous with each other.
See, that is why I went out and bought the Champions LARP. Did you know there's Champions LARP?
No.
Because Tyler said he would run it, because he was the only one at the time, because you'd moved to East Jesus. And he was the only one I knew who'd actually run LARPs before, and I'd said, I want you to run it at a game con, because I already have my character concept. And Heather agreed to make a costume for
Oh
me.
my god, it was so good.
It was Thunder Guts.
Oh my god, why hasn't this happened?
Because he moved.
Oh my god, this needs to happen.
Yes, it needs to happen. It
Yes.
needs to happen at a con.
A Champions LARP would be so good.
Yes. And you just use your phone and you use the stopwatch button for your randomizer.
Yeah.
You just look at the hundredths of a second or something.
Yeah. No, I mean that's true. Props don't necessarily have to be within the table. I mean, I always wear my fangs for Mode of Sin.
Right.
And then the chat was not really sure what was happening part of the time, and there were a
The
lot of
first time
questions
you
about
wore 'em.
like, we haven't seen this person before. Is that what their teeth actually look like?
That's right. Your first time on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next person who comes on the show who's new has to wear goofy teeth for the first 3 appearances.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Although I will never outdo showing up for misadventures in werewolf makeup, because I had been in werewolf makeup earlier that day, so I just wore it to the game.
Yeah. Right.
And like sat at the table with the hood before the game started. People were like, what the fuck is happening? It was so much fun.
That's awesome. You just reveal the hood once
Yeah.
the moon comes out or whatever.
Well, actually, the chat had access in that game to trigger my character, like, randomly. Every single game they did that. The one time I showed up in full makeup, I think everybody forgot about that. So they didn't set my character off at all the entire game.
Oh, man.
And then you put him back like, what the fuck, motherfucker?
Well, no, it was great. It was great. I got a little bit of a break because they were literally breaking my character.
They probably felt bad.
Yeah. Costumes are cool. I usually dress kind of like the character, but I don't usually do costumes unless we like organize that ahead of time. We did that for some of Dave Kazay's games.
Yes. I
I ended up sitting in a corset for a game.
have an ascot. And that's the only reason I have an ascot.
Oh man, I've got several ascots. They're awesome.
Of course you do. I had to look up online how to tie the fucking thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how to tie this.
But you don't wear ascots regularly.
No.
Well, you
That's
don't?
actually a little surprising, actually, for you.
Ascots?
Yeah.
Well, no, I wore an
Wait,
ascot.
are you talking about an ascot or a cravat?
I have no idea.
You're talking about a cravat.
I don't know. It had a thin part and then it had 2 wide parts, and it
Yes.
was big. It was like this long, and it was wide, and then it was narrow.
It's like the Victorian tie thing.
Yeah, it's a cravat.
That's a cravat.
That's
Okay.
cravat. Yeah.
Ascot is like what Fred wears in Scooby-Doo. Which is like basically a bandana around the neck.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not that.
Okay. I was like,
The more you know.
yeah.
Okay, what was the other one?
G.I. Joe. You know what I need is a bolo tie. You
I've
remember
got a
those?
whole box of bolos. I'll let you go through them. They're in there before we leave.
All right, cool.
I imagine you're going to just wear it with your tank top.
Yeah, I'm
though.
just gonna just wear it like a necklace.
Oh yeah. That's what they're there for. Okay, is that the horse dead?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's so many different things you can do with props. I don't think we're going to be able to cover
Right.
every prop
Well,
you could ever make.
Have we covered all of the props we have made?
No.
I made tons for the Eldamy
so
game.
many.
Most of them were notes, either
Yeah.
notes, but I also did like a sheet of mad ramblings because you guys had found someone who had been captured and held hostage, and so I wrote as small as I could with a pencil and in weird patterns all the stuff, and it had all kinds of clues in it.
Right.
And that once I dropped that clue, Bruce opened up his notebook and said, took all the clues out,
Yeah.
and then you guys had like a 45-minute session trying to piece everything together, and you pretty much did.
Yeah, no, that was super helpful. I think one of the most important props that we use all the time that we forgot to mention was alcohol.
Oh,
No, I'm not kidding. Like there have been many times where we've brought like thematic alcohol to the game.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Different wines we brought for Mode of Sin.
Spaniard's Ghost always had grog.
Yeah,
Right.
like we.
I brought
just
mead for some games.
just for fun usually, but it actually kind of does add to it. Like if you're actually drinking grog when you're on the pirate ship, you know,
Right.
as long as you
You're
have the
like,
good
man,
recipe.
it's all for this?
Yeah.
What the fuck? This sucks.
I actually have to give one more shout out. I just remembered for a prop that Nick did for a game I was in. It was a Monday Night Dungeon Fight, and basically it was like this PvP crazy D&D game. And he came in. He was dressed up as this barbarian. And my character murdered the shit out of his.
Nice.
And he's like, "You are victorious." And he had brought in this little metal thing he made because Nick actually does some smithing.
Oh, that's cool.
And he's like, "This is like your winning token," and like gave it to me. So I like won something off of him by defeating him in combat.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's awesome.
It was really cool.
Yeah, I think those little trinkets and tokens can be really amazing. I did that I ran like a Spanish Inquisition game. Yes, nobody expected it. Make the joke every single fucking time.
Damn it.
I know.
I know. I was a little too slow too.
I was
But-
on it.
Apparently not.
But like the way that game started is everybody was given a necklace that had a portrait in it, and it like connected them to the other characters at the table. So that was fun. Those were cool to make. Michael's is the best.
I want to encourage not just GMs to make props, but players to make props for other players.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That it's just super fun.
Well, when Bill was running a Star Wars Traveler game, Little Man, I fucking hate sketches.
Rob
Rob was, I couldn't remember his name.
I know. What the hell's wrong with you?
I
man.
remembered what he looked like, and I
I-
remembered his
oh
catchphrase.
man, can I call him Little Man now?
No, he will murder you.
Do it.
Hey, he's been here for the last 7 years, so
But we made Traveler characters, and he rolled a character who had been like a rear admiral or a vice admiral or something, something like
He's,
that.
like 14 is his social or something.
Yeah.
Very
social
high,
media,
and his rank in the Navy was super high. So he ended up, when he mustered out, he got some kind of a ship. So he has this ship, and he's starting basically like a mercenary company, something like Blackwater or something like that.
No,
And so he goes along and wants to hire all of the player characters to come and join this thing. Well, I got in the mail my employment contract.
that
Oh my
is so
God.
good.
Oh, yeah.
Holy
that's
fuck.
amazing.
Wait,
Holy
Rob
shit.
sent that or Bill sent
Rob sent it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
His character
Holy
owned the ship,
fuck.
and he was hiring all of it.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Oh,
That is so good.
like I bow to that. Like,
Yeah.
holy fuck, that's dedication.
But that also just really establishes that whole thing. There isn't like this, oh right, I forgot, like, you're the guy in charge. Or somebody,
Yeah.
like, talking, like, as an equal or something. It happens sometimes at the beginning of the game until,
Right.
like, that gets set. It's like, I have an employment contract. You are my boss.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I signed this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It came in the mail.
It came in the mail.
Oh my god.
That's
so good.
cool.
Yeah. Rob does really cool shit.
Yes, he does.
And as you can see from our reaction, I mean, I'm sure he just like wrote up a little thing or took some boilerplate shit and changed a little bit and then sent it out to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
But the reaction to that kind of thing is just so good.
Oh, yeah.
And you get in the actual mail and not like, oh, here, it's at the table, and like that, holy fuck.
Yeah, no, he actually mailed them.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
And I don't remember him asking for my mailing address. Well, he probably already had mine, but some of the other people, he probably had to get it
Well, he had to show up here to play that game.
No, it was at Bill's house.
Oh. Right, well, he'd
But-
definitely been here before.
He was
Yeah, he's
stalking
certainly been here.
Yeah.
But other people got him too. Like, I don't know if he knows Stork's address.
I don't know.
And I think Store got one too.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember. Anyway, but yeah, it was pretty cool. But it reminded me of I used to play Diplomacy, play by mail.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a long time ago.
That took a long time to do.
It was 1 month turns for spring and fall, and then it was summer, winter, which is the build and remove, was a 2-week turnaround. So you had to turn in orders really fast for that, but the rest of the time you had 1 month to communicate with whoever you're going to communicate in and get your orders in.
Wow.
So, and then the woman who ran the game was running probably 10 or 12 games at a time.
Oh.
And she would get it and produce a zine and then mail that to everyone who was playing. And you'd get it and it'd have all the moves of everyone's games, and it'd have a little picture of the map and show what the map looked like after that turn.
The amount of work that would take gives me hives.
Oh, well now you can do it online.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still,
then,
I mean, that is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's super cool.
This is in the 80s.
But-
This was in the 80s.
Were you
Making
guys
this-
paying her to do that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It costs like
Still.
$5 a game or something like that.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
not
but this
expensive.
that was very expensive back in, what, 40s?
Yeah. No, it was
$5 was a good wage that back then.
I was in
Probably minimum wage.
Yeah, no.
I was in high school, I think. So
80s.
it was early 80s probably. And there were actually I went I don't remember how I found out about it.
That's so cool.
But I got
cool.
some kind of resource for it.
Maybe you got the zine.
No, I didn't even know about those, but I got something. It was there was a magazine that every so often would have like an article about diplomacy, and in it in the back there was an ad, and I got one of these zines, and it turns out in every one of the zines they list all of the other zines that but at the time there were probably 20 of them
Wow.
all across the country.
Wow.
And it was fun. I mean, a lot of the games never really made it through to completion because someone would disappear, and then they're always looking for someone to take over someone else's country, and they're already down to 2 armies, and they're not in their home ports anymore. So there's no way you're going to survive more than a couple turns.
Right.
But it was fun. It was very fun.
The chat room has informed me that in 1985 the federal minimum wage went up to $3.50 an hour.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I made minimum wage in 1985.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Should we go on to the...
Yeah, so
we
now
probably
we're going
should.
to that was a rousing conversation.
Yeah, it was a little unorganized, but still very good.
Yes.
No.
Have you seen who's sitting at this table?
I know. It's fine.
A note about Fear the Con, a new book, and an observation from Jeb. Hello, Venerable Venable and the Boosh Dags.
Nice.
This is Jeb, no Jeep, with a post-mortem for Fear the Con 11, which happened in May. Okay, no, I guess it was more recently. It was must have been in June, I guess. I think he sent this a week ago. Which just wrapped up last weekend, probably the weekend before. After 72 hours of drinking, board gaming, geeky music from Mikey Mason, and RPGs with friends old and new, it took me the better part of a week to recover. So much fun ought to be illegal. Highlights for me were a steampunk Firefly game, run in GURPS. Yeah! Of course, in which Captain Mal one-shotted my Alliance operative with a critical hit to the head. The entire table erupted in cheers as I threw my arms up in defeat. Moments like that are the reason why I play RPG.
I am no mere hedge.
Right. Hedge.
Alliance operative.
I'm no mere Hedge Alliance douche. Also of note was the con-ending fiasco game. Sergeant Dan and I always combined forces for that, and this year we had 15 players show up for it. We split into 3 tables and ran fiasco in Star Trek, 1930s Los Angeles, and World War II post-D-Day, like Kelly's Heroes or the Dirty Dozen, only way worse. I bet. Well, it's fiasco. We made so much noise, laughing and shouting that the con organizers threatened to put us in a room separate from the rest of the con, which is probably your plan all along.
Yeah.
I don't see why this is a bad thing.
Right. You know,
They did
when
that to us a long
all
time
last weekend when I was sick, I watched a shit ton of World War II movies.
Oh, yeah?
I watched The Big Red One, with the mean-looking guy with white hair. I'm terrible with actors' names. No, I also watched Patton, which is one of my favorite movies. I love watching Patton. George C. Scott was fantastic, even though I think they were actually making fun of George Patton. And then The Pacific from HBO.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then next in line is The Band of Brothers.
Oh, Band of Brothers is so good.
I've seen it, but it's been
I've
a long
watched it like
time.
4 times. It's so good.
I love that stuff. I watched an amazing movie called Dunkirk.
Yes. That's
Holy shit!
Yeah,
it came out
so
like
good.
last year.
Yeah,
so good.
Oh my god, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Very quiet film.
Yeah.
For a war movie.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Except when it isn't.
Except when it isn't.
Yeah.
And when it isn't, it's frighteningly loud. But for most of the time, it's like, we're sitting on a beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hurry up and wait.
Right.
There's
They
a lot
use-
of hurry up and wait.
Yeah, they use silence so effectively in that, and it just it builds your anticipation, and it makes you so stressed out through the whole movie. But it's like,
Do you know what the premise of it?
No, I'm just sitting here staring blankly because I do.
The premise, it's early in
no
World
idea.
War II, and the Germans made a major push through France and basically pushed the French forces and the British Expeditionary Forces all the way to the beach opposite the English Channel.
Yeah,
Great.
And they're basically stuck there. There's units that are trying to hold off the German army, and they're stuck, and there's a lot of water between them and where they need to go.
Yeah, they can't
So
And
go
they're-
also,
anywhere.
like,
It's a true story.
inexplicably,
What I'm hearing
The-
is there's no monsters in it except for that man is the real monster.
Well, yeah.
So that's probably why I didn't watch it.
Okay.
and also inexplicably, the Germans stopped.
Right.
And so there's time for them to evacuate, but they didn't have any ships to evacuate them. So people, like normal people, just
spoilers.
Went and got ships.
It's
Right.
history. I'm just
It's
kidding.
not really. It's not really.
It's just kidding.
Toad spoilers, yeah.
But the most terrifying thing is there's literally hundreds of thousands of troops sitting on this beach. It's a big ass beach,
Yeah.
waiting to get rescued. And all of a sudden, here comes a German plane. It's like, I'm gonna strafe them,
Yeah, they just bomb. Yeah,
and make a little line of dead people, and then off he goes.
yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
There has not been a really good World War II film for a long time, and that one was really
It was really good. Yeah.
There was some shit, especially in the 80s. They made a terrible World War II films
yeah.
in the 80s. And at some point, they're going to stop making World War II films because there's not going to
Yeah.
be anyone that remembers anything.
No, they'll move on to World War III,
we need-
which is
yeah.
happening soon.
we need more World War I movies.
World War I is the most terrifying war ever.
Well,
That
is.
is some
There's
scary
also
shit.
some like crazy bullshit. Like at
Yeah.
about this time, like a little bit before now, like the stuff that was going in the Caucasus was insane because the Germans were actually literally fighting with their allies,
Yeah.
trying to get the oil fields that were there, and it was just fucking insane. I mean,
I
you
did-
could totally have it's like a reality show,
Yeah.
but of nations instead of Kardashians, but they're acting the same way.
Yeah.
I did watch one film that was a World War I film, but it was from the German point of view.
Oh, interesting.
And I can't. It was on Amazon Prime, and I cannot remember the name of it. But that was also a very good
Man,
movie.
yeah,
There's
a spy
also-
movie
yeah.
during that time would be really cool
Yeah.
because there's so much intrigue.
Oh yeah.
There's also Wonder Woman.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, going over the top.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Let's see. The
Con saw the release.
The Con saw the release of my new book of RPG advice and adventure seeds, Random Encounters Season 1 Omnibus, by Jason Brick and Jeb Brack. Yes, Brick and Brack. Did you guys?
Beautiful.
Did you pick your co-authors because of that, or
If you did, I applaud you.
Or was it just fate?
right?
It was, the most serendipitous thing ever.
It's available on Amazon.com, and there's a link that I will strive to put in the show notes.
Yeah, don't you dare read that.
But if HTTPS
No, stop.
Oh, God, no.
forward slash
Amazon has this great feature called the search function where you can type in
Random
probably-
Encounters Season 1 Omnibus.
Yeah. I bet if you type in brick and brack, you probably will get.
Well, there's probably a company called Brick and Brack that makes brick.
Yeah, but there's like a giant list of things that'll come
Well,
up.
Yeah,
then you
I
get
mean,
your
you get
book
to-
and you get some random bric-a-brac, and it's all great.
Jason Brick or Jeb Brack.
Yeah.
If you search for either one of those, you'll probably find it.
Yes.
I'll try to put it in the show notes. I really will.
Okay.
I will. No, I will. I did the illustrations and some of the content, and I think it turned out pretty well. Check it out and post a review if you feel so inclined.
Excellent.
Finally, a question or observation, if you will. It seems to me that in a con game, You can focus either on the system or the story, but not both. If you want to show off a great system you're using, then the players will be focusing on that and not on their characters or the role-playing. I tend to give a very brief intro into whatever system I'm using. This is GURPS. Yeah! So here are the skills and attributes. Roll 3 dice and try to score low. Then I get into the story and try to get the players to forget the mechanics as much as possible. What do you think? Thanks, guys. Hope to see you at an upcoming Fear the Con or at a Strategicon in the future.
We will.
That's more likely. Although I do want to go to a Fear the Con.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're just...
Far away.
It's actually a good time to travel because it's not like a 3-day weekend or something like that.
It's still far away.
Well, it's Missouri. It's not that far. It's not as far as Gen Con. Gen Con's farther.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Indiana's.
Yeah.
And then there's like a
Strategicon is 29 minutes from my house.
That's true. Yes, Strategicon is much closer. All right. So,
Jeb, not Jeb. Not Jib.
Jeff.
Do you know how long it took me to figure out that JIB was an acronym?
Yes.
Really?
It is.
Took me forever. Like last week.
Oh.
Like, son of a bitch.
He used to write that in his emails.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
His are the really, really long ones.
No, I remember those.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't
No,
remember. Like,
yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, it's Jib, and there's some other shit
And
because
it's super
we already
con-
spent 2 hours reading his email. So,
Right. Wait, what was his name at the beginning? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Gene shows up and calls him Jason. I'm super confused. I'm like, Jason's not here. Oh, you mean Jib. I refuse to call it that.
So, do you agree with him? You're either going to showcase the system or the story
Well,
in a
like,
con game.
At cons, the character sheets are holding you back, man.
Oh, God.
Like,
No.
I focus 100% on role playing,
Right.
and I will just whenever I'm running a con game, I usually know the system like the back of my hand. And so I can fuck with it to the nth degree on a dime, and nobody cares. Nobody's, we're just out here to have fun. So if I'm running a system in like Wild Talents or something, I'm just fucking making shit up for what the NPCs are doing, what people are like, I want to do this power. Sure, you have that power, and it's these dice.
Right.
Because it's all about getting them immersed in the role playing, because you got 4 hours to have a great time. And worrying about the numbers, I love numbers,
You do.
but worrying about the numbers in those 4 hours is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Right.
I tend to do a combination because I find that people are more comfortable with the game and with the role playing if they know a little bit about the system. So I do, and it's the same exact thing every time, maybe because I'm a teacher and that's how I do it. But like I start off with, okay, characters, let's, I have them flush out the characters because I usually just have them with stats and then they get to name and like do all the, like the glossing over it. And then I'll start the story, and then usually it's like the first 15 minutes, someone has to roll for something. And that's when I'm like, okay, we're going to pause here for a second. Let me explain the mechanics of rolling and why you roll this way. And so that way I can actually use whatever they're rolling as the example. So it's not stopping the game.
Right.
They're rolling whatever they were going to roll anyway. And I'm just explaining to everybody how it works and why it works that way. So it's like that teachable moment. And then from there I find people like, oh, okay, that makes great sense. And then they kind of roll into it. And sometimes people have more questions later. Most of the time they don't. But then you can just like on-ramp into the RP, and it's not like they're like looking at me every time for what dice they're supposed to roll, because usually they can figure it out by like their third roll. I don't know. If you have something super complicated like D&D where you have to look up a bunch of really specific mechanics, I think he is correct. If you have something like Wild Talents or even Powered by the Apocalypse or something like that, like there's very little system to have to explain. Once somebody does it 2 or 3 times, it's like, oh, okay, I got this.
Well, when I ran Mongoose Traveler 2nd edition at the last con I was at, the February con.
That's lots of numbers.
Well, and we did character gen. So I think I said everyone could have like a 2-term limit or a 3-term limit or something like that. And we spent like the first hour and 15 minutes making characters. The system after that isn't very, very difficult. It's like add this modifier, add your skill, roll dice, add to it. And so mechanics-wise, it's not hard, but you get to showcase the character generation system which is one of the best parts about the game.
Yes, it is.
And
That's
the nice thing was everyone actually got to make their own character and then decide who this person is. So they really they came up with their characterizations, I think, faster than would generally happen if you hand someone a pre-gen. Because they got to actually go through the process. They didn't get to pick what character they were playing, because that's not what happens in Traveler. But they got to go through the process of making the character. So it was their own. So,
I love that. Sorry, go
ahead.
We've started doing that, and I've started doing that. For Wild Talents, there's too much math involved, so I usually, like I said, just have the stats, and they get to create the characters around the stats.
Right.
But, with Demigods, when I ran that at the last con, and when I've done, simpler systems like PBTA, I love having them make the characters at the table. I find it, even though it takes time from the role-playing, it increases the quality of the role-playing, because they have that ownership of the character, they created it, they have that idea in their head, they're not trying to wrap, their take around what you've already made. And it worked out so well at the last con when I did that. It was very cool.
Full disclosure, I have never played or run a con game.
That's okay.
But coming from the outside and as somebody who wants to and just hasn't had an opportunity to, for me, it's very much going to be, role play for me is king. Right. I've been in one-offs and I've run one-offs, which are very similar, I imagine, to a lot of con games and setups, especially if somebody's just coming sitting down. I want them to have fun. I care more about that they're getting this role-playing experience that they enjoy. I prefer them just tell me what you want to do, and we'll figure it out and go from there. And we'll flesh it out. We'll make it happen. I would much rather they focus on enjoying the story and finding their character's voice than be stressed about the mechanics. I'd rather just tear up the fucking rule book and throw it out if it's getting in the way of people having a good time and doing the role play part of the gaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what will the forum say?
Do I look like I care?
Well, bringing up the character sheets again, I think actually character sheets are key to how easy it is to integrate role playing and the math into the session.
So I was very drunk then.
Yes,
but the intent is not that you shouldn't have character sheets.
Right, no.
But exactly that of, fuck the mechanics, let's have fun.
Right. No, and I'm not saying, I wasn't countering not having character
not
sheets.
the mechanics, but don't worry about it.
But my
back out of the middle of this.
I went around and I found Wild Talents character sheets that have the dice pools completely on each thing. So if they're rolling athletics, they don't have to add anything to each other. It's just right there. You roll, it says 7D. Oh, okay, roll 7D10s. So the simpler you can make the mechanics on the character sheet, I think that also leads to great role playing.
Because it's more of a guide that they don't have to worry about, and they know concretely what their characters can do.
Exactly.
And that is very important. It's just don't get bogged down with the minutia or, okay, so what you can do, so there are these different ways you can attack. So you can do a normal attack, or you can do a stunning attack, or you can do a sweep attack, or you can...
Yeah. Right. Or just have that all in your if that's I would never run a system like that, but if that is part of the system that you're running, have that on the fucking character sheet so you don't have to say it 80 times.
Right.
So they don't have to keep asking that. So they can look down and be like, wait, what are my 3 attacks again? Oh, okay, swiping, sweeping, okay. And that way it's there for them and it's helpful.
That's one of the problems with Hero. Because they do put that on the character sheet designer. They do put it on the character sheet. And the character sheet is 7 pages long.
Right, that's...
That includes tables and hit location tables and all kinds of stuff, which is very handy. But,
I remember that one time we played Hero for the D&D game.
Oh my God!
That
was the worst thing. That was the worst choice ever.
That was so bad. Although I really kind of liked the cool powers I got. The resurrection thing was pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot of work for, oh God, this is terrible. Let's never do this again.
Right. This combat is taking longer than it took in D&D.
5th edition with
No, fourth edition.
Oh yeah, 4th edition with 9 of us playing.
And combat was slower.
It was 6 hours of combat. That one time was 8.
Yeah.
When Stork went down the hallway wrong.
That was still in 4th edition.
No, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I said the wrong thing because I was thinking how many people were playing while I was talking, so the numbers got mixed
That's
up.
a whole bag of nope for me.
Yeah.
Damn.
God. You're
That was
not
awesome.
a tank. You're a squishy mage. Why are you wandering off alone? I know
That's what his character does.
I know.
That's what Stork does.
That's what Stork's characters do. Pretty much all of them. All right. Thank you, Jeb, for the email.
Yes.
And I will try to put that in the show notes.
That is.
If you want to email me and remind me, then I'll know for sure that I'll do it. Because you'll email me and I'll go, I'll do it right now.
You're assuming he's going to listen to this.
He will. Oh, he
Eventually.
will. He better. Origin of my horror stories from Drail88. Who would like to read this?
It says horror story, so I
Do
wouldn't
the
be sad
thing.
about
You should
it.
do that.
Oh my god, there's a lot of
I get excited whenever I see horror story. Greetings, Happy Jackers. I've told a couple horror stories here and there over the seasons of the best RPG podcast on Earth. But thinking back, I've never told you my origin story, my first ever horror story. Let's take a step back to when I was a young teenager who was at odds with his parents. Dumb young me decided to uproot my life and seek shelter elsewhere, namely to hit up a friend's house a couple miles from home. Let me tell you about my quote-unquote friends. They were a young couple with a small child living in a rundown house owned by the husband's dad. At the time I thought they were cool, but only after living with them did I see the major shitstorm I barely got out of. They were messy, as in the entirety of the house was damaged, bug-infested, and had layers upon layers of grim cigarette smoke and garbage. And they had been living in this house for a couple years at this point. Also, electricity only worked in half of the house, so going to the only bathroom involved going on an expedition in the darkness where mutant bugs lived. This is all to set the scene. I was young, dumb, and desperate not to be under my folks' roof. So when they took me in, I turned a blind eye to a lot of things. Husband is a loud verbal jerk. I looked away. Husband would rather use his money to pay for cheap beer. I bought food because I thought I was trying to help. Husband want to buy video games and hog all of the time on the TV that I brought. I say nothing because they are my home. The husband was a bad egg in the worst kind of way. I'm kind of getting this feeling, dude. As in believed himself to be a channeler and could call the spirit of the god he worshipped into him. There was also an altar to these various gods. The two of them worshipped in the living room, which I had cleaned multiple times, but it always ended up looking like trash. Husband was also a fan of his own version of Wicca, which involved bloodletting and speaking the names of the gods to grant him good luck for the day. There are some of these practices I can get behind, but a lot of this just sounds awful. Blood sacrifices sound okay.
Yeah, that's what I was
Really,
gonna
it's
ask.
like not the problem. It's like the grime on top of it.
Yeah, like, I
because
mean, if
that's
you want to
not
have
sanitary.
ritual
No.
sacrifices and bloodletting, like, more power to you, literally, because you have prayed to the old ones. But, come on, don't clean your house.
Yeah.
They smell like broccoli.
They really do. Well, that's why they smell like broccoli, but they are very pungent.
I walked in, I'm like, oh, Tappy. If you want, I have some keto chocolate bars.
No, I'm not. I can't have that.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are we good now?
Can you
Are we
seal
good
that
now?
up?
I did.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your mic's not on.
Because I was eating. Because I was eating quietly.
I know. We can smell it.
I'm really glad you submitted this email. I really enjoyed reading half of it. Tune in next week for the rest of the email.
Oh no, we got pages to go, girl. Let's keep going.
I'm working on it. God.
Are you on to page
Literally,
2 yet?
there's evil gods in it. Literally God. I am a non-denominational Christian. However, I do not judge people for having a different faith. So if they want to worship another god, sure, you do you and do no harm. Except these gods were made up. As in they had wrote fan fiction about these gods online and were actively worshiping those fictional characters as gods. I'm sure you're curious by now what all this has to do with RPGs. I was starting to get that kind of feeling. Well, let me tell you. Thank you. These people are the ones who introduced me to Dungeons & Dragons. It was me, husband, and wife. The unholy trinity. That's not actually in this paper, but I think it should be.
Yes.
I was running the game and had no idea what I was doing, but we were having fun. Until I noticed that the characters the two of them are playing are the gods they worship. I say nothing, because it's just a game. But one night after husband made a roll to seduce the barmaid, and he said natural 20, I looked at the dice. Dude, that's an 8. You can't just make up what you want.
So these are gods that cheat on dice rolls.
That sounds like what gods would do.
Yes.
Cut to the next day, wife saying that I have to leave because, and I fucking quote, he feels offended that you badmouth the god he believes in, and you make him uncomfortable to be around. I had been there for about 3 months at this point.
Hold
at
on.
his
Wait, I have to
invitation.
deconstruct this sentence. You
Yes.
make him uncomfortable to be around.
Yeah, I noticed that. I think the intent of that is maybe not that, but I get the gist.
He is uncomfortable to be around, and it's your fault.
Right.
So you need to get out.
Yes.
So my husband is more comfortable to be around,
That makes it better.
and we can clean again.
Or not, as it seems. Let's see. I'd been there for about 3 months at this point, at his invitation. When I asked why, wife just shrugged and looked away. He said you make him feel uncomfortable. That if he wanted to wake up naked in the morning and drink goat's blood, he shouldn't be judged. Which is fair. Who hasn't wanted to get up and drink some goat blood?
No, grimy
Again,
goat
but you have
blood.
to drink it out. No, the goat blood's fine. It's the fucking glass you're
Glass
drinking
that's
it
in.
out.
Exactly.
No, that's why you have it sealed in,
Where are they
Mickey's
getting-
bottle.
I
Where-
can
Wide
guarantee you they do not have it sealed. These people do not.
Where
They're getting it from the screaming goats you like so much.
Ah! Those ones?
Yeah.
That, those are the
Then why do
screaming
you think
needles.
they cut them and drink their blood?
No, that's why they scream.
Right. Just don't cut the fainting goats. Those are awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, but they
Yeah,
are easy
well-
to catch once they faint. You can just zip.
The thing is that they're just scared of blood. So you cut them and they faint. That's,
I wonder if a screaming goat would set off fainting goats.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I bet so, but let's do science.
And then it sees it fall, it thinks it's dead, so it starts screaming louder. It's just this constant circular thing. Oh.
Where can we get these goats? We'll talk after the game.
Yeah.
We're not playing a game. I guess we're playing a game in my head right now. It's can I get through the rest of this letter?
You can.
Second edition. In the 3 months I'd been there, shut up.
Sorry, stop being funny.
Can't. In the 3 months I'd been there, I had fixed their house, fed their child, got the wife a job at a place I knew, paid their electric bill, and had put up with clouds of cigarette smoke that to this day give me chest pains. I think at that point you should own the house. I packed my shit and drove away. Last I heard, the guy had run off with another girl and had a warrant out for his arrest. Honestly, when I look back at all of this, I'm surprised I came out sane and still liking tabletop RPGs. With love from Texas, Drail88 on the forums. P.S. If this gets read, I'll send a success story next time, as the story has left me a little down in the dumps.
Aw. Well, we are
Literally in the dumps. That place was a dump.
I think it's technically called a squat at that point.
Oh,
Well,
they
that's
stopped
what-
paying
that's
rent?
what you do in it, and then you don't clean up afterwards.
Had they stopped paying rent?
Tappy
No,
would
I
know.
think no. It actually isn't because somebody they're legally. Otherwise, it's not abandoned. If it was abandoned and then they were just staying there, that's a squat.
That's a squat.
Oh,
Well-
and we're really glad that you stayed with the hobby.
And why though? Why would you?
Fucking shocked.
But why?
We've had some emails about the people's first gaming experience, and some of them are pretty horrendous.
This is the worst I've ever heard of.
Oh, we had a lot
No.
worse, dude.
The murderer one was the worst.
We had
Wait, what?
Oh, what?
horrible ones.
I haven't listened to that episode.
We had
This is
horrible
relevant
ones.
to my interests.
Yeah, D&D literally saved a guy's life because.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh,
know.
that was
What?
the gang guys.
Yeah, the gang guys. He started like these guys. He started like DMing for them, and they liked the game. And he found out that because he had been running a game. He found out when they had been sent to his house when they showed up at his house for time they were supposed to kill him, but because he ran a game for them and they liked it, he lived.
That's not a horror story. That's amazing.
Right.
That sounds like my next movie. I'm going to write this fucking
Holy
movie.
shit! Are you kidding me?
No, I swear to God, that was his email.
Oh, that's so good.
It was amazing.
Oh, man.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
have
have
to
anything
go back
that
and
cool.
find what episode that was from. But we were all just like, "Oh my God, that's
Also-
crazy."
Oh, I just looked it up.
Oh yeah.
Dogs and goats do not cohabitat very well.
No, but the chat room called it goatception. When it was like the screaming goat and the fainting goat setting off the screaming goat, setting off the fainting goat, like back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Goatception.
No, actually,
Oh
that
my God!
creates
It might be.
infinite energy.
I was about to say it's a new power source.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just the fainting goat falling over
Same thought.
again and again and again.
We call it goat power.
Oh yeah, and then there was the online game masturbating dude. The chat room reminded me of that.
No.
Online game, what?
Yeah, the guy
man. Okay,
masturbating, yeah.
maybe there are worse ones.
There are worse.
Yeah.
All right.
This is
I know.
bad.
Yeah, by comparison, I'd rather come for the goat blood and stay for the D&D game.
Let's
Like-
And then let's not forget
in the future.
cheeseburger.
Let's just call that the Donald ducking incident.
All right.
Yikes.
Moving on. Tale of disappointment and triumph in one con game. Eric from Indiana. I'll read half and you read half.
Wait.
Okay.
Eric, Indiana, Eric, Indiana. Sorry.
Eric.
That's okay. I don't get that reference. All right.
The Music Man?
Yeah.
Sorry. I know my mom
It's actually
angry.
supposed to be Gary, Indiana.
Oh, okay. If you said something like that, I probably would have. I don't know.
you
I don't know
wouldn't.
why.
It's all right. Go ahead.
It's okay. My mom only taught theater for 39 years. She's going to disown me if she ever listens
Well,
to this.
it's your job as a daughter to ignore what your mother teaches.
Yeah.
That's every child's prerogative.
That was my first role on stage when I was 8.
Oh, yeah?
It was Winthrop, yeah.
Amazing.
From Eric in Indiana, a.k.a. Balder on the forums. Hello, Stu and the monks of douchedom.
That's us.
There are no monks here. Forgive me, for it has been over a year since my last email. I was prompted to write over a comment made by Stork in Season 22, Episode 4, where he commented about a player leaving in the middle of the game. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, we talked about that. That was very heated. Last year, I wrote in and asked for advice on running games for the first time at a convention. I ran 4 games in Savage Worlds, Weird War 1, Rippers in a colonial setting with 2 sessions each. You gave some awesome advice, which I took to heart. It was Gen Con 2018, which hasn't happened yet, so I'm guessing maybe
he meant
17?
Could they be a time traveler?
Any other year. Oh, yeah, time traveler. I had a low point and a high point in the same game. It was my first session of Weird War 1 game. The characters were specially suited selected units that was to break through the Battle of Somme.
The Somme.
Thank you. To investigate, I don't watch World War II movies that much, so
World War One.
Oh yeah, Weird War. Sorry, you're right. Sorry. Obviously, Wonder Woman.
Same theater.
Shut up. Rumors of the Germans experimenting on troops in a small French town. I had 5 players, and the game seemed to be going all right. I had 3 men and 2 women at the table. One of the guys was a little more quiet and reserved than the rest. He was participating, but for the most part was just following the lead of the others. I had no sense of displeasure and did attempt to involve him in the planning and decision-making. They just reached the outskirts of the village, and it was about halfway through the session, I had a small 10-minute break.
You need to figure out what to do.
Yeah. Tea break. I told them we would meet back in 10 minutes. I used the restroom, and passed the quiet guy in the hall and said something like, "See you in 5." I sat back down at my table, and only 4 players returned.
Wah, wah.
The quiet player did not come back. I admit, it threw me for a loop.
Oh, yeah.
There had been nothing to indicate he was not having fun, at least not that I had seen. He gave no acknowledgement to the displeasure. I even asked the other players if I'd been unclear that we were going for another 2 hours. They all stated that they had understood. For about 10 minutes, it threw me off my game and knocked me out of the narrative. It put doubt in my head. I could see the table of assholes. I see if my table had assholes, like the 4 guys who decided to go on a werewolf panty raid.
Oh, it was this guy. Yeah, I remember that email. Yeah.
Sorry, werewolf penny raid?
Yeah,
Really?
it was bad. Yeah, the GM had set up this thing.
Questions?
How is this bad?
Well, the in the email, he set up all these women to be victims that were also werewolves. And
he had 3 or 4 horrible players
guys.
who were like, "Yes, let's exploit this."
Yeah, we break in their house, we smell their panties, we steal
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was not good.
Werewolves should literally eat those people.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Yeah.
should have happened.
Okay.
Panty raid, but it wasn't. I was certain I'd screwed up somehow. Thankfully, my players were great and supportive. They helped me get back on track and then stepped up their play. Soon we were pulled back into the story. Second 2 hours are some of the most memorable I've ever had. Go, Tabby!
Let me set the stage. The soldiers were being experimented on by Carl
Mingala.
Mengele and being turned into beastmen for the front line. There was a schism between the German lieutenant and he about this project. My players found this hook, bit it, and exploited it to the hilt. I loved it. Then one of the most memorable moments in gameplay occurred. The group was on the top floor of the chateau where Mengele was experimenting on the soldiers. Due to their persuading the lieutenant to look the other way, they encountered little resistance entering. Unknown to them, 2 German shepherd dogmen were locked on the top floor. They heard a crashing from behind a door, and one of the guys fired blindly through the door. I'd expected the characters to fight 2 dogmen and then have them recognize a tattoo from one of their former comrades. Then one of the women's players did something I hadn't expected. As the dogman burst down the door, she yelled, "Sit!" And I quote, asserted her dominance.
Oh my god. Yes. Who is this woman? I want to be friends with her.
I told her that would be a persuade roll at a -6, which she was unskilled in. The dice gods were with her, and the D4 exploded for a roll of 24.
Excellent.
What could I say? I said, it sits down with its tail tucked between its legs. Next up in initiative were the other women players. Following the first lead, she asked, "We have dried rations or something like that, right? I'm pretty sure they haven't been feeding these guys. I'm going to offer some to the other to see if I can make it friendly."
Yes.
In light of what had just happened, I went with it. Again, I set a really high difficulty persuade check. She rolled a 42.
It's the answer to everything.
Statistically improbable, and I will probably never see the like again. Yes, because it's improbable. While the two of them had been telling me what they're going to do, I've seen the look of "what the fuck" on the two guys' faces. When I said they had basically tamed the two dogmen, after the two back-to-back moments of everybody holding their breaths as the rolls kept exploding at the table, erupted with cheers from all four players. It was excellent.
Nice.
The boss confrontation became armored juggernaut weird scientist meets can openers of his own design as the two dogmen shredded the suit and made dog meat of him. It was the high point of the con for me. I wish the other player had stayed to see it, but then maybe it wouldn't have happened. I thank you all for showing the way of yes and, for without its teaching I never would have gone with the taming of the encounter.
Yay.
Excellent.
The two guys did get to blow stuff up as a parting shot to their German brethren. They blew up a tank outside the chateau. Everyone still at the table said they loved the game. I really wish I knew why the other player left. I would recommend that if you find yourself doing that, send the GM something via email or through GMHQ, as I did think about that for the rest of the con. Thank you, Happy Jacks, for turning the railroad engineer into something more freeform and fun. Avier student, Eric from Indiana, Aka, Balder from the forums.
Yay.
Oh, that's so good. I love when
yeah.
players come up with random shit where you're like, "Oh my god, that's so good. Let's do it."
Yeah.
It's impossible
yes.
to do, but I have to say, you can't let someone leaving the table bother you, especially if you don't know why they left.
Yeah.
He may have gotten an emergency phone call.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally have no idea. It may have had nothing to do with the game.
Yeah.
So to obsess over it is not going to do anyone any good. And it's just as likely it had nothing to do with you. It had to do with some other circumstance. Maybe that guy was sick. Maybe that's why he wasn't acting like he was getting into it. Maybe he's coming down with something. And he went, it's like, "Oh, I don't feel good. I'm going to go back to my room and
Migraines.
sleep."
I've
Who
had a
knows?
couple of times where I've been at a game and I've had a migraine set off, and
Oh, yeah.
you need to get out of there.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
Or he could be a terrible person, doesn't like role-playing with women.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
You have
The
no way of
shadow
knowing.
knows.
So you really can't let that get into your head and rattle around and throw your game.
Yeah, especially
I mean,
Well-
it's hard to... It's much easier to say that than it is to do that.
Yes. Well,
but-
especially if you wasn't getting any like negative vibes, if the player wasn't like super bored or like annoyed or they
Right.
were participating.
Yeah, maybe it just wasn't the flavor of game he was hoping for. It's like,
Yeah.
I wanted to, machine gun down giant hordes of troops, and instead I'm a
Or maybe he
secret
was
agent.
expecting a really gritty game
Yeah.
because it's World War One.
Well, I bet it's Weird War One.
Well, yeah, that's true, yeah.
However, that second bit,
Oh, yeah.
fucking rad.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That's
fucking
so
rad.
good.
And I looked it up. Carl Mengele was Joseph Mengele's dad.
Huh.
Mm.
Interesting.
Because I'm like, wait a minute, Mengele, that's World War II.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I just figured he made up something like that, but if it's really his dad, that's very interesting.
Yes.
That's smart.
I don't think his dad was actually
No.
a war criminal, though. Maybe he was. I don't know.
Well, maybe he was experimenting on people and make them German shepherds.
Yeah.
Heyo. There's no link to a Carl Mengele webpage, so I'm going to assume that he probably wasn't a war criminal during World War I.
No, probably.
Probably not.
I like
still,
the trend
that's
we're
cool.
seeing though of women in games like taming animals and like turning them to their will. I'm like, yes, because the chat room's reminding me that we had the girls in the little girls in the D&D game.
Oh, yeah.
where the dad was had expected them to fight the wolves, and then they ended up taming the wolves and like turning them on the bad guys. It's like a thing, and the little cat girl.
Oh yeah, right. Nah, silver medal. That was the best part.
I just really love it when players have a novel solution
Yes.
to a problem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you as a GM get to explore that with them.
Yeah.
And you're like, when you're the railroad engineer, you never get to explore anything because
No.
you know where it's going.
Right.
And so that whole novel solution it's super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that when I'm a GM.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, there's really not much about Carl Mendela. He was born in 1884 in Hochstadt,
That's nice.
but it didn't say he served. He probably served.
No.
1884, he probably would have served.
Yeah. He'd be relatively young.
Yeah. In his 20s.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember the name of that World War I movie I watched. It was so good. It was old. It was old. It was probably from the 70s, I'm going to guess. They made good.
Yeah.
They made good war movies in the 70s and 60s.
Yeah, 60s
if
and
you
70s
want
is
to,
a good spot.
if anybody wants to have a really good YouTube show about the Great War, you should look up The Great War, and it goes week by week exactly as it happened 100 years after it happened.
That's so cool.
And so it's a 10-minute thing every week. So we're now in season 5.
And it's going to be wrapping up
Well,
next year, right? Is
No,
it 19 or 18?
No, it's probably November 11th
Okay.
because it's the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Is when
The war ended?
the war ended,
Okay,
I believe.
Okay.
Somebody in the chat might be like, "You're wrong," but I believe that's when it ended.
It's numbers, so you're probably right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, November 11th, 1918. There you go.
Nice.
All right.
All right.
That's it?
Yeah, I think we're done.
Where's the thing? I need the thing. There it is. Thank you for joining us. Oh, fuck. Thank you for joining us for Season 22, Episode 7 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Mac.
And I'm Tappy.
And that's it. And we'll see you next week, Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, right here on the same Splat channel.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
we got
Yep. Check out happyjacks.org.
L5R this weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay.
How about happyjacks.org/schedule. See all the games that are coming up. We have L5R on Sunday. I think we have Monster Hearts on Monday.
Yes.
Next Wednesday we're off, and then
Is there anything tomorrow? Is there a one-shot thing tomorrow?
Yes, ShadowCon is happening tomorrow at 5 p.m.
This, or is it?
Next
it is-
weekend is One Shot Saturday.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We'll leave
Thank
the
you.
song.
Yep.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.
Way Santee, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka?
Now, shipmates, listen unto me. I'll tell you in this song of the things that happened to me when I come home from Hong Kong.
To me, Way Santee, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka?
As I walked out to Chatham Street, a fair maid I didn't meet. She asked me please to see her home. She lived on Bleecker Street. I said, my dear young lady, I'm a stranger in this town. I got off ship just yesterday. From Liverpool she was bound.
To me, Way Santee, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka?
Now, if you'll only come with me, you can have a treat. I'll buy a beer and brandy and 10 F's for a tea. I took her out to Tiffany's and I spared no expense. I bought her 2 gold earrings and they cost me 15 cents.
To me, Way Santee, my dear Annie.
thinking it was over, we straight to bed did go. But little did I ever think she'd prove me overthrow.
To me ways and tea, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka?
When I came to next morning, I had an aching head. And there was I, Jack, all alone, stark naked on the bed. I looked all around the room, but nothing could I see but a lady's shifting apron, which now belonged to me.
To me ways and tea, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka?
Everything was silent, the hour was 8 o'clock. I put my shift and apron on and headed for the dock. The old man cried, "Boy, Jack, my boy, I'm sure I could have found a better suit than that by far to buy for 80 pounds.
To me ways and tea, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka?
So come on, me bully sailormen, take a warning when ashore, or else you'll meet some charming girl who's nothing but a whore. Your hard and cash will disappear, your rig and boots as well. For Yankee girls is tougher than the other side of hell.
To me